Well, Hillary says she's thinking about Iran, and Jeb's not ruling one out. Presidential historian Doug Wead says he's about to give up. Surely in a country of nearly 320 million people, we can widen at least the search out. So, Doug, you're just saying we go back to the same old type of Petri dish, right?
I don't think it looks good. I think it's dangerous to keep electing the same families over and over. You want to see what it's like, go to Indonesia, go to Korea, where the same families get in power and they get out of power and they muse about what they could have done differently, how to better monetize the presidency, and then they get another chance and then even another chance. Yeah. It's not very healthy, and the media, for years, the media was very opposed to it. Now that barrier's down.
You know, you think about it, I was thinking of you coming on here today, between the Roosevelts and the Adams, you could argue by extent to the Kennedys and the Clintons, they have dominated 1 out of 4 presidential elections in this country. Actually, it gets up when you consider re-elected dynasties. So that is weird, isn't it?
It is. Charles Francis Adams would have been the third in the next generation. He ran in 1872, 1876. Some say, like they're saying about Jeb Bush, he was the best of them all.
Right.
The author John S. Cooper says he, as much as Lincoln and Grant, helped win the Union, the Civil War for the Union side, because he kept Great Britain from recognizing the Confederacy. But yes, these families have dominated American history, but it is not healthy for us.
But one could argue, depending on your political persuasion, you could look at some of those families I mentioned, say they did a lot of good, others say maybe not so much good. You're just saying we have nothing to risk going outside that little clan, right?
We've had some bad outsider presidents, we've had some good ones. And one of the more interesting templates to follow was that Jimmy Carter was not liked, and he was thrown out of office. He was an outsider who came to Washington. But this time the American people went with another outsider, and that was Ronald Reagan. And I remember I wrote a book. I interviewed Ronald Reagan in 79, 80. I tried to get it published. I couldn't get it published, and the publishers in New York were saying, he's not even going to live for another few years, let alone get elected president. So outsiders, sometimes Lincoln, sometimes they make great president. You mentioned Theodore Roosevelt. He was a loose cannon.
Absolutely.
It was an established family, but the only way to get rid of him was making vice president.
But you know,
so you never know.
Real quickly, you mentioned Carter, and he was a former governor. You mentioned Ronald Reagan. He was a former governor. So if you think about it, even those cases, we did go and harken back to their traditional roles as governors of states.
And that's why the odds are likely that we're going to go back, especially after Obama. Some people are appalled at what is happening with an outsider. They may go back to tried and true, but I'm saying I don't think you'll find a historian who thinks it's very healthy.
Very interesting. Doug Wead, you explained that so even I could understand it. Presidential historian Doug Wead. Well, there is a new Iowa presidential poll out, and